Thank you for those who informed us that we had not turned on the live stream. And for those whose live stream just came on, welcome and apologies for neglecting to turn it on sooner. We are going to continue on page 30 as we note the passage of time as evening descends.
And you're welcome to join with us. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. And we continue in the English on page 32. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'vlechtecha b'derech, u'shochbecha u'v'kumecha, u'kshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
These words from Torah put forth an inclusive vision of community that includes even our youngest members, and we are instructed to teach these words to our children. We invite Bonnie Wellens now to share the reading on page 39, words that will lead us into our Song of the Sea, Micha Mocha.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we shall believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
is muted. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Norat tehilot, oseh feleh, norat tehilot, oseh feleh, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Barutecha uvanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam, ze Elianu ve'ameru, ze Elianu ve'ameru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Jai la 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 la. Jai la 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 la. Jai la 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 la. Jai la 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 la. V'namar kifat Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. We join on page 42 with our prayer for the evening Hashki Venu as we invoke this image of God's Sukkot Shalom, God's shelter of peace spread over all of us. And we'll begin with the Hebrew and add some English words as well.
Hashkivenu Adonai Elohim L'shalom, L'shalom. V'hamidenu shomrenu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. We'll join on page 45 with these words reminding us of linking us in community past, present, and future, and leading us into our tefillah, our standing prayer. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. Page 46.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufia kiteilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim,
V'konei
hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'mevi geula livnei v'nehem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה.
ונאמן
אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. Page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Take a few moments to add our own prayers from our hearts. Take a moment in silence, and we'll come back together for the prayer for peace. Page 60, we pray for wholeness and completeness and peace. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha טסים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. And we add our Mishaberach, our special prayer for health and healing as we take this moment in our service to pray for loved ones who are ill and to pray for those who care for them as well. You can find the words on page 253, and we especially pray for these members of our community and families. And if you are on Zoom, you're welcome to add any other names into our chat. We pray for Colin Monroe, Mary Lou Hole, Janet Watson, Paul Robillard, Elizabeth Hill, Enrico Mascaro, Deborah Booker, Amy Seith, Robert Bloom, Annalie Stone, Benjamin Horowitz, Bradley Dichter, Mateo Goldman, Toby Weiner, Asya Rushavskaya, Amy Fasper-Kurtz, Eileen Arnone, Marilyn Breyer, Jean Sands, Roseanne Cohen, Tom Fiorino, Barry Levine, Carolyn Weil, Gary Bacalar, John G., Harvey Grassfield. Of strength, will bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. We shall those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We wish them refuah shlema, healing of body and spirit. And I am delighted at this moment in our service to introduce our guest speaker. I'll just take a moment and then Nancy Kriegel, you can certainly add to your own introduction, including if I'm mispronouncing your name. I apologize. If you missed the beginning because our live stream was not yet on, again, we are recognizing and truly celebrating that February is Jewish Disability Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month. And this is, of course, a theme that has been really at the forefront of our Temple Beth David community for the last several years. But we especially take this time in our service and true gratitude to Connie Rizzoli, Bonnie Wellens, and Marcia Perna, who knew of Nancy and found her and spoke with her. I take no credit for this, but again, it is an honor to have Nancy Kriegel joining our community this evening. She is the executive director of Yad Chesed. Those Hebrew words mean hand of loving kindness. And Yad Chesed is a local organization that supports families who are experiencing poverty and economic distress by helping them reach financial stability. Prior to Yad Chesed, Nancy worked in CJP, our kind of local Jewish federation that aids so many organizations in our area. And she is also the founder, one of the founders and co-president of Gateways, Access to Jewish Education, which is an organization very closely tied with Temple Beth David and our work in our Shorashim religious school. Nancy is also an attorney and lives just down the road in Sharon, Massachusetts. So I'm going to turn over our Zoom screen to our honored guest speaker to share her words of Torah and experience in this field of inclusion. Thank you so much for joining us, Nancy.
Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to see everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Rabbi Karen, you got the name right. Nancy Kriegel, that's the name. So kudos to you. You read it correctly. And I really want to thank you and Rabbi Micah and Bonnie and Marcia and Connie for inviting me to join this really lovely service and this just beautiful community. What I didn't know is that Mark Springer is among you, and I had the pleasure of working with Mark Springer at my prior role at CJP when I was focusing on Jewish day school education. So if Mark is a part of this community, it must be a fabulous group. As already shared, my name is Nancy Kriegel. I am the executive of Yad Chesed, and thank you, Rabbi Karen, for explaining what Yad Chesed does. I hope that in a future time, I can come back and tell you a little bit more about Yad Chesed. But today, I'm actually here to tell you about my story and as it relates to Jewish Disabilities Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month. So I'm really honored to share with you my story. And I'm going to start with a little bit of Torah, and you'll see in a moment how it relates. So this parsha for this Shabbat is Ki Tisa, and this begins in Exodus chapter 30 with a directive from God. And God tells the people, everyone from the age of 20 years up shall give God an offering. The rich shall give, the poor shall give, everybody will give the same. And everyone is who God is talking about. No one is excluded. And in this way, the power of the entire community is maximized to really form the foundation of what becomes the Mishkan and the foundation of the Israelite community. So that really is a fitting concept here, that idea that community means everyone. But if I had met you 25 years ago, that would not have been the concept and the conversation that was happening in our community. There was no such thing 25 years ago as a Jewish disabilities awareness, acceptance, and inclusion focus. These issues were just not part of the mainstream community. And if we had met 25 years ago, I would have been pregnant with my second child, and I likely would have wanted you to know a few things about me. I would have wanted you to know that I was an Ivy League graduate, that I was an attorney, that I was practicing litigation. I would have wanted you to know that my kids, like me, were going to be academic achievers because all Jewish families have kids with academic achievers. that they would all go to Jewish day school, just like I did, because that was my experience. And I assumed that my children would be able to follow in my footsteps. And these were really the things that defined me. That was who I was. That was what I was proud of. And I would have shared those things as those were my identity. And if you had asked me 25 years ago, what did I know about children with special needs? Or what did I know about the concept of inclusion or disabilities? I honestly would have told you nothing. I didn't know. It was not part of the way I thought about the world or about community. Those things happened to other people, but it was not my story. 25 years ago, I gave birth to a son, and 2 days later, he was having very, very significant complex seizures. We were in and out of Children's Hospital on and off for about a year. It was not a happy time. And as time went on, thankfully, his medical issues stabilized, but it was clear that he was going to have remaining developmental delays. That was undeniable. And I was really sad. It was a very sad, hard time. I had an 18-month-old and I had a newborn, and we were really facing a lot of challenges. And I felt very different from my community and my extended family. And I was alone. We were very lonely. And when my son was 3, I met with the director of his sister's Jewish preschool. I was ready to sign him up, and they told me, we'll let him in, but we don't usually do things like this, and it's not going to be easy. And I remember the director going further and saying to me, and there's no way he'll ever go to Jewish day school. And that was an aha moment for me. How could somebody tell me that? Just put the ceiling on top of what I was hoping still would happen for my child. So I realized at that point that I could go on feeling isolated, feeling alone, or I could start investigating what might be possible. Instead of being told what wasn't possible, what's possible? How can we figure this out? And started to have conversations with and found other families. We actually were not alone. It just that it wasn't talked about. It wasn't part of the conversation and community, but we found other families who were similarly looking to connect with Jewish community, to have their children be part of what was happening in the mainstream. And over time, and with a lot of meetings and a lot of conversation and finding a lot of like-minded people, we were able, and I should say with support from existing organizations like CJP, who did help us amplify our voice, we were able to form what became Gateways, Access to Jewish Education. And at the time it was a little organization, and we were focusing in on just a few Jewish institutions that were willing to engage with us and to try our kids out and see if it might work. And now I can fast forward to the present. And this is what's so amazing. The present now shows us a Gateways that is established as an organization that is providing comprehensive services for families, for day schools, for synagogues, just like yours. I was thrilled to hear that Gateways is a partner with you. And families now with children with a range of abilities and disabilities are just expecting that their children, if they so desire, can access Jewish education. I mean, that's an amazing thing. And I want to take a moment and celebrate our Jewish community for being open and willing to change. And 25 years ago, no one would have anticipated that we would be where we are today, and this conversation would be happening today. And now, Gateways is there for every Jewish child, and the conversation is there for families and for children who might feel other or peripheral. And it really does amaze me how far we've come. And there are programs for people of abilities and disabilities so that they can meet their potential and they can be part of Jewish living and Jewish education. And yet, I do have to say, there are still those among us who experience stigma and who are excluded in big and small ways. It is either intentional or under the surface, but there are many who feel that they still aren't fully able to participate and access mainstream Jewish life. So we still have work to do. The misperceptions and insensitivities that exist around disabilities continue. It continues in my own family. It's everywhere. And so our work is to always try to be aware and to think about how we might include. I want to share as I close that my now 25-year-old is a college graduate. He is working and living independently. His Jewish connection is truly central to his identity and to his social life. That is where he finds comfort and connection. And I am convinced without a doubt that the strides that our Jewish community was able to make in the last 25 years created the conditions for him to be thriving now. And that there are many other young adults just like him who in the last 25 years were able to thrive and feel included as part of Jewish life throughout their journey, so that now they can seek comfort and connection. And I hope that that continues. Our work together as a Jewish community to continue to remind ourselves and our community that we have to honor and include and celebrate all human beings who show up with an infinite combination of strengths and abilities. We all have them: strengths, abilities, weaknesses, opportunities to offer things to others. If we all just keep that in mind, I strongly believe that we will continue to build a world where everyone can thrive and everyone can find their connection. And I'll just close with where I started, with a reminder that just as God tells us in Ki Tisa, community does and should mean everyone. Everyone counts, and together we really will build this world to be a better and more inclusive place. So those are my words. That's how I'm going to leave it. Happy to talk a little bit more if people want to engage a little, or just I defer to Rabbi Karen and Rabbi Micah about where you go next with your service.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I love your image from Ki Tisa and reminder of inclusive community, and especially what you said resonated with me about not being alone. And I would echo what you said, that when I started my master's degree in Jewish education probably about 20 years ago, this was never a topic. And I would say it's a topic and theme in my work as a Jewish educator every day at Temple Beth David, and many of our congregants know the efforts we've made to welcome in students and adults from all abilities. And I thank you for your message. We could certainly have a minute or two if anyone on the Zoom screen wants to maybe write a question or comment into the chat. Again, we can't really see everyone, but or if anyone would like to raise your hand, we'll try, or you can unmute yourselves, and if you would like to ask Nancy a question. Probably the chat is the easiest way. I can't see it. Can you see it?
Yeah, there's nothing.
I saw one little comment just that it resonated with people. So I'm pleased to share that message that resonates with others. And if people don't want to engage, that's absolutely fine too.
So how did
You have to read it. I can't see it.
How did you mitigate the school system? That was that difficult? The Jewish day school system, is that the question? I think you mean by Jewish day school, not public school system. So sure, it was. In the very beginning, the sense was always that the Jewish day schools were doing us a favor by letting our kids in, and there was always the sense that what was the? I'll get to that one in a second. But there was always the sense that everything additive, every accommodation, any additional expense, any additional supports had to be on the parents. And that, the gift that the schools were giving us was the opportunity for us to pay tuition. We were paying tuition just like everyone else, but the feeling was at first that it was a trial run, and they were doing us a favor. Over time, I think that really changed. But in the beginning, the approach was we wanted to make this work, and we would do whatever, we parents would do whatever it took to make it work. I saw one other quick question. What was the nature of the Jewish education that your son obtained? So my son went from kindergarten through 8th grade at the South Area Schechter, which is no longer in existence. It had been first in Stoughton, then in Norwood. And at the time, there were no special ed supports at all. There was just, to their credit, a recognition and a desire to learn and to figure out how to assist students who were different learners. And I'll just share that one of the things that became very clear to me is, when you have a child who struggles to learn, no one is going to fix that. There's no one teacher, there's no one, that person may always struggle to learn. And the opportunity to have the social connection with that child's community, that of his siblings and his parents, counterbalances, for us anyway, anything else that might have been able to obtain in another school setting, because in another school setting, he still would have struggled to learn, but he wouldn't have had the community that he was connected to. So that's not exactly the answer, but that's a lot of how we thought about the experience for our son. I will say over time, and Mark Springer, who I'm going to refer to, the other schools in the Jewish day school world really embraced this effort and this recognition of inclusion. And 10, 15 years later, when my son was a high schooler, it became across the entire Jewish day school spectrum expected that our schools would be able to broaden and include increasing numbers of students with challenges. And I really, obviously there's always work to be done, but it's amazing now what's available for students who want to access Jewish education.
Well, thank you so much again to Nancy Kriegel, and maybe we would look forward to having you back in person at some point. And,
my pleasure.
Again, just want to thank our Temple's Inclusion Committee, especially Connie and Bonnie and Marcia, for bringing Nancy to us this evening, and to the entire committee's efforts to make our building more accessible, our programs more accessible, increased efforts, especially in the last year around mental health. And for anyone who might be watching on live stream as well, if you have suggestions, questions, ideas for how to make our Temple community even more accessible and inclusive, please feel free to let any of us know. Our Shabbat morning celebration will continue at 9 a.m. on Zoom with our lay-led minyan. Actually, Rabbi Hank Zub, our Rabbi Emeritus, will be leading, so that's a wonderful treat, and it's nice to see Rabbi Zub and Barbara Zub on our Zoom screen this evening. Next Shabbat will be led by members of our Temple's Brotherhood, also on Zoom. It's a little bit of a quieter week at Temple, so please check your weekly shofar for actually a lot of exciting and new programs coming up in the month of March, including our return to in-person Shabbat services starting the first week in March. We have an adult scholar in residence coming up, Rabbi Neil Gold, as well as some other new programs. So please look in your weekly email, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone back at Temple soon. Still with masks for now, but stay tuned. You can find your concluding prayers beginning with Aleinu L'Shabeach on page 282. Again, we rise in body or in spirit. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'atei gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kiloye ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Turn our thoughts to loved ones who are no longer with us, those who died in recent days and those whose Yartzeiten occur this Shabbat. We're especially thinking of Gary Levitt, friend of Tim Holliner, Rachel Glaser, cousin of Abby Glaser, and Steve Luboff, uncle of Rabbi Karen, great uncle of Yona and Itai, all who died in the last 30 days. And it's the Yartzeiten this Shabbat of Teresa Aceta, Marion Albion, Philip Fishman, Amy Feit, Tobiah Frankel, Ruth Bunny Gottlieb, Deb Hager, Ruth Kobe, Ben Raskind, Sylvia Rausch, Al Slobodkin, Dorothy Slobodkin, Jesse Spark, Minnie Stein, Frederick Stein, Henry Wellens, and Eleanor Zub. And if you're remembering a loved one, you can speak their name out loud in your home. If you're on Zoom, you can type your loved one's name into the chat. And we continue praising God's name for the gift of life and memory on page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chai echon v'yom echon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei d'kusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved among us.
We invite you to turn back now in your prayer book to page 5 as we join in our Shabbat blessings, again celebrating the before we do that, we're going to conclude our service with a final prayer for peace. And I should also just mention, in addition to sending us any ideas around inclusion, if any members of our temple community would like to just get involved and help out, let me know, or Connie or Bonnie. In addition to being a partner with Gateways, we're also proud partners of the Ruderman Synagogue Inclusion Program, and lots of ways to get involved. We are going to end with those last words on 294 as we ask God, who makes peace above, to bring peace here amongst all of us.
Ose shalom, b'imromav. Ose shalom, b'imromav. Hu
Uya'aseh shalom. Uya'aseh shalom. Uya'aseh shalom. Aleinu. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, say shalom. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Shabbat shalom. Now we'll raise our Kiddush cups for Kiddush, and you can have hopefully some challah ready for Motzi. Please join us. Page 5. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hirchilanu zikaron l'maseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon Inchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim. We are going to unspotlight and invite you to unmute if you would like and join us out loud for our blessing over bread, that no one shall go hungry, and hopefully there's some Shabbat dinner waiting for all of us. Our dog Iggy knows what time it is. Hold on.
I know, Iggy. Please join us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam haosim v'chim ha'aretz. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Those on Zoom, you're welcome to stay on and greet one another. And for those on live stream, again, Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Yeah.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Have a good week.
Nancy.
Thank you again,
Take care,
Nancy.
everyone.
Nancy,
Bye-bye.
thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Shabbat
Shabbat shalom. Bye-bye.
I'll tell Kathy.
Nancy, thank you so much. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Mark, it's good to see you.
Bye-bye. Shabbat shalom.
Nancy, wonderful to see you.